Hi all, I thought it was time to give a little update on how we're doing on the greenhouse and the snow kit. Show you how we're coming along and what we're growing in it. So we're still working on that north wall. And we did get the door in. We're starting to frame a window down here. The door does work, even though we don't quite need it just yet. Let's go look at the trees first. Everything is looking really good. Oh, there's a nasty little grasshopper right there. We should try to get him and give him to the chickens. Oh, darn. But I've got new growth on everything. These are all new leaves. I've actually got a couple of pears on the pear tree. Here's some new growth. The apple tree, I still need to get a second apple because that is not self-pollinating. These are the peach trees. Joel says they need to be pruned. This is the avocado, and you can see there's new leaves growing here. This is that plum tree that I got bare root and stayed bare root for months. And there is some growth coming from the root ball, it looks like. So I'm not sure if that means I just cut this stalk off when these get big enough. I gotta research that a little. The fig is looking really good. Getting lots of new leaves too. And here's, oh look, Kermit is joining us today. There's still a little water in here. Good. There's a couple of frogs actually, I think, living in here. But we're starting to realize that the water that's coming in is not because the north wall isn't finished. It's now because we don't have a ridge cap up in the ceiling or up in the roof. So this water keeps getting in here. So it's pretty deep right here. You can see it's pretty sloppy. But the trees are doing well. So the key lime hasn't had any flowers or anything, but it does have some new leaves. The Eureka lemon has some new leaves. The Meyer lemon had a bad aphid problem, and I just sprayed it yesterday, I think. So I think these are dead. I hope they're dead aphids. But this has 1, 2, 3 lemons and a bud. So I should come and spray that off with the hose, get rid of all the dead aphids. So this first 6 feet of the greenhouse, so there's a post in that corner right there, and then when we get to this next post, 6 feet, so there will be a wall separating, there'll be a wall right here separating the, what we're calling the cold room from the rest of the greenhouse. So this is the north bed, and these are all the peppers, and they're doing good. We've picked quite a few shishitos. Some back there. That one's doing really well. Got one jalapeno plant, and it has one jalapeno on it that I don't think is getting any bigger, so I should probably pick it so it keeps making more. We've got some cayenne peppers in here. These are Hohen's Carolina Reapers. They haven't done much. They might need it to be hotter. They haven't flowered or anything. Another serrano. There's a banana pepper back there. More banana peppers in there. And most of these are bell peppers that I planted like a week or two after the others, so they haven't done anything yet. But we are using a soaker hose, which seems to work really well. The peppers are doing well with just having the groundwater. And you'll notice we still have these braces up. We're going to leave those up until we get a tie-back system installed. We're going to tie these back to the ground back there with a pulley system. Joel knows more about that. And here's a cayenne pepper. And this is just an open space I had, so I planted some seeds, some kohlrabi and some beets. And you'll see right under that cooler there, the ground kind of collapsed under there because it's next to the tubes. We put the soil in, and then by watering it with this soaker hose, the water just kind of collapsed the dirt. So those are a bunch of beets back behind the cooler. And then I did take what beet seedlings fell kind of in the collapsed hole. I took those out and replanted them on the south bed. So hopefully I saved a few of them. This is the west wall. We have part of the wall done. We're just leaving it open for ventilation because we don't have the fans going yet. But it's nice to have it closed because the dog won't walk in through there anymore. And these are my tomatoes. I'm really liking this string system. So there's 2 rows of tomatoes here, and that back row, so that's a back row, goes up to the frame of the greenhouse. And then this front row, we had to put a wire up there. And I got that wire idea from Hugh Richards. Do you guys watch his channel? I think he's in Wales, but it was just a genius idea. And I'll show you that more closely once we're walking up there. Seems like forever before these things will turn red. I think that was my first tomato in here. This is a Thorburns terracotta. Ooh, there's a nice big one. There. It's amazing the more tomatoes you see when you're down here looking up. There's a bunch over there. Oh, there's a bunch hiding in there. All kinds of them in here now. Just gotta wait for them to turn red. So after the tomatoes, we've got green beans. These are those dragon tongue beans that they're purple. The green beans did really well in here. There's no pest pressure. They liked the heat. Looks like I need to get out here because there's a bunch on here. That's good, lots of beans. We've been eating green beans like crazy. And this is the lettuce leaf basil. That's my favorite, so I plant a lot of it. And this is a couple of cantaloupes. I'm just going to let them just crawl right over the side. A couple more green beans. And this is a zucchini, which should be bigger than this, but I didn't plant it until really late. I just didn't have the space. I took something out there and put it in later. And this is the lemon basil, which is another of my favorites. I did direct seed some onions and some kohlrabi and some celery in here just to see what would happen. And I found out what would happen. The dog came in here and trampled everything. So I do have a few onions growing. You can see here, and there's some kohlrabi down there, but the dog kind of took a lot of it out. Those beets I transplanted from the other wall seem to be taking okay. And here's all the leeks. I think I'm gonna bring a few of these to market this week. And I planted some Brussels sprouts down here. You can see there's some holes in the Brussels sprouts. Because that south wall is still open like that, we do get a little bit of pest pressure in here, and the flea beetles kind of had their way with the Brussels sprouts. But I use that, I don't know how you say it, spinosad or spinosad, and it does great. I probably sprayed those probably 2 weeks ago, and it gets rid of them. So now let us look at the south bed. So if you buy a greenhouse in the snow kit, it tells you that this space between the retaining walls, it's 4 feet deep, but it's supposed to be 11 feet wide. And ours turned out to be 9 feet. Not entirely on purpose, but I do actually really like that because I can walk up here. It leaves us 5 feet of room. There's a 5-foot bed here. So I use this 1 foot for my walking path, and then I have a 4-foot bed. It does get a little hard to reach toward the back, so I try not to put things back there I need to reach too often. But you can see I'm standing up here, and you know, I've got another 6-7 inches, and I'm 5'1" when I wake up in the morning, but Joel has to duck a little, but it's nice to be able to walk up here. So there's some celery that did take, there's a few of them, they must have gotten blown around, and a few onions. I left whatever this is in here, it's just a weed because the flea beetles love it. So here's that turnbuckle system I was talking about. So we just used these brackets to hook a turnbuckle to, so that if this wire ever gets so heavy that it's sagging, we can tighten it by just turning this screw. And then we just put those brackets on each frame piece. And I'll tell you, the hard part of this was this is called a sleeve right here, and it has to be crimped. So this is a thimble that the wire goes around, and this is called a sleeve, and you need to crimp that. And you're supposed to use a tool called a swage crimp, but they're really expensive. So we did find, you know, since we're gonna do this, I don't know, twice, I didn't want to spend hundreds of dollars on a tool. So we did just find what was called a ratcheting crimper at Harbor Freight. That was like a fraction of the price, and it worked. So, and we're not putting anything, you know, too heavy on here, so we figured we'd get it tight enough. And this, I just used twine, and I tried to get it so that they were no more than 2 liters on a plant, so 2 main stems, but some of them did get 3. You know, it's amazing when you get in here and start pruning how many suckers show up. Like that one back there must have gotten away from me. But yeah, so use the framework to tie things to, and then we could even put a 3rd one if we have to, because I'm imagining that these tomatoes, because you can see here's a really tall one, these tomatoes are going to grow up and under this wire. And so, I mean, if we wanted to, we could even put another wire farther up. And it seems like people do try to create shade in here because it does get so hot. Once we have all the walls and the fans in, it could get to be 100 degrees in here. And so I think having the shade in some areas would be good. So all the way down here. So these are the tubes. But those are the tubes that go down 8 feet. That's 8 to 10. And they go all the way out and around the greenhouse 250 feet. And then those tubes come back inside the greenhouse way down there. It's supposed to be one tube for each section of greenhouse that you have, and we have 12. And this is the south bed again. So that south wall all the way down, there's kind of like a knee wall there, and that's not finished for the same reason the north wall isn't finished, and that is the skid loader does not work. So, and you know, we're gonna have to make that a priority and get it fixed. What, I guess we have to buy a new motor for it. It's quite expensive, but apparently one of the pistons is shot, so it's a 2-cylinder, but right now it's just a 1-cylinder. So we have to figure out how high on the priority list that is, and I think it's pretty high now that it's August in Minnesota. So let's take a look at the outside beds. We just surrounded this with some T-post and some garden netting, which has worked. Nothing's gotten in here, but I wouldn't do it again just because I'm always releasing frogs and dragonflies from it. Here are the potatoes. I've actually never grown potatoes before, but it's just as easy as everybody says. I planted 4 buckets, and then about a month later I planted 2 more. I just need to get more buckets. And this is some more tomatoes, some more slicers. You can see Joel's ingenious pine bow trellising here. It actually works pretty good until they get too big. But I've got 1 cauliflower that might actually do something. And these were my first tomatoes. This is another Thorburns terracotta. So if you're in zone 3, the Thorburns terracotta variety is one of the earliest in my experiences. And then we have some peas over here and some onions. And I thought these were all bunching onions. This back row I did first, but I'm getting bulbs on these onions down here. And I'll bring some of those to market this week also. This is my cucumber carrot bed. Looks like a strawberry got in there. I gotta get these trellised. I also started cucumbers late because I didn't have this bed ready. I've thinned out these carrots once or twice and they're looking good. Here's my sad strawberry bed. I would do this Honoi variety because when I got these strawberries, I quickly forgot I even had them. And they all kind of got mushy and yucky, but I decided to try them anyway just to put them in. And it was these Honoi strawberries that did the best. I might even get a strawberry this year. I see one actually, it's turning red. Hopefully it gets all the way red before a bug eats it. This is a paste tomato bed, like, you know, the Romas. And I have 1 nice big paste tomato, and I had a hornworm problem with it. So you can see there's lots of leafless stems, but it seems to have been eliminated. Again, I used that spinosad. And remember me whining and whining about broccoli early this spring? Well, I kept these plants in this bed just kind of as a trap crop for the flea beetles. And now I've got a couple of broccoli heads. I might actually get something out of this one. I do have a small squash bed here that hasn't really done anything, so, which is okay because I planted new squash seeds and we'll see if I can get a second round. I'll probably put them inside the greenhouse since they take so long. I'll probably plant the little ones, the little scallop squash outside because they don't take as long. I think they're 50 or 60 days. But the acorn squash I'm going to try to plant inside the greenhouse. See if I can have a long enough season for them in there. Hello ladies and gentlemen. Turn out. Donna's a man. And there's also one more rooster. I don't see him right now. They're practicing their crowing, as you heard in the background. And they're also practicing mating. Donna's not as good at it as the other rooster is. I haven't done a lot of fall gardening just because I usually get so overwhelmed with the summer garden. But this year I was actually pretty excited to plant all these seeds. Looks like my cabbages, kohlrabi, and cauliflower are coming up. These are all turnips. And some rutabagas and squash. And this is a whole bin of green beans and peas. This is lettuces and spinach, this tray. Do you ever wonder about when people say, plant this, 2 to 4 weeks after your last frost date, and I just didn't get it done? Well, does that mean you can't get it done? So I planted 3 rhubarb seeds in here, and I don't know, maybe I have to bring it in the winter. And that's the tour. So thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It really helps the success of our channel, and I will keep you posted. Thanks. Bye.